Okay, so I'm here with a review of UFC 316. We all saw the main event. I actually have a lot to say about that because I didn't really like that fight in the first place. I'm not sure that Sean actually deserved an immediate rematch like that to begin with. So to throw him in there and then to get that type of outcome in the rematch when he was supposed to be better, he had lifestyle changes, he had done all these things in his personal life that was supposed to, get rid of distractions and social media, and then to go in there and actually get beat worse, like getting finished this time, is absolutely insane. I know that's got to be bad on him mentally because you were doing all these other things, smoking and whatnot. In the last fight, at least you got beat 50-45, and you had an actual good round in the fifth round towards the end of the fight. And that's what actually made me think that if he could make some changes, not necessarily lifestyle changes, because it was more so just a takedown defense. Because that's always going to be a problem when you fight Merab. Like, he's going to go for those takedowns. We saw that he had 49 takedown attempts against Pyfer alone. Like, that's insane. Speaking of Pyfer, I think that the right fight to make in the first place after Sean lost his belt was the rematch with Pyfer. It just made sense. Now he's scheduled to fight Marcus McGee, but in my opinion, go ahead and run that fight back in the first place, because Pyfer has enough wrestling to where we have to respect it, and it is a good, it's a respectable amount of wrestling that's not as dangerous as Merab, because the wrestling is what made the fight close with Sean in the first place, right? Because Sean did the damage, but Pyfer had the wrestling. Run that fight back, get Sean acclimated. Let's make sure the takedown defense is good. Make Merab fight somebody else. Make Merab fight Corey Sandhagen or somebody, and either let somebody else beat Merab or let somebody else go in there and show some weaknesses in Merab's game. That made sense to me. But the UFC, I blame them. They pushed Sean. He didn't deserve a title fight in the first place to become the champion. Like, they did Aljo dirty. And then he got a Mickey Mouse title defense against Chito Vera. I mean, that was one of the worst title challenger performance we've ever seen in a fight, in a UFC fight before. Chito didn't hardly do anything in that fight. So then you actually have to fight Merab. You get ragdolled. You sit out for a year, get an instant rematch that you don't deserve. Of course that's going to happen. He should have fought a Song Yadong. He should have fought maybe a Corey Sandhagen. But I'm going to tell you the worst thing about this. There's nobody else that Sean can really beat now, because the Pyfer fight, now that Sean has lost 2 in a row, and now that his stock is kind of declining, and he didn't look good in the post-fight interview. His spirit looked broken, and Pyfer is winning fights. So let's say if Pyfer is able to beat Marcus McGee, and now he's on this win streak, you can't even run that fight back because Pyfer might smoke him. But I'm sure that they'll try to make that fight so he can steal Pyotr's momentum. But after that, you got Umar Nurmagomedov. Sean cannot beat Umar. You can't make that fight. Then we got Corey Sandhagen. Well, Merab was talking to Corey Sandhagen after the fights last night, and it looks like Corey's going to be next in line to fight for the belt. So he can't fight Corey. Song Yadong is available, but that's kind of a dangerous fight because, I don't know, I could see Sean winning that fight because Song Yadong does have a lot of losses. There is a blueprint out there. There is a blueprint on how to beat Song Yadong. It ain't like he's unbeatable or nothing like that. He got quite a few losses, but he's dangerous. That's just somebody you don't really want to play with because that's a high risk, low reward fight. After that, you got Davidson Figueiredo. There's no point in mentioning him, but then it gets worse. Like, now don't get me wrong, there are some winnable fights for Sean. They're just not, they don't do anything for your stock really other than get you back in the win column. You got Rob Font. Okay, he could fight Rob Font and win that fight. He got Henry Cejudo. I don't really know, because Henry, with that wrestling, it could look like the Merab fight. Maybe even worse because Henry got some knockout power. I know Henry hasn't won a fight in a long time too, but stylistically, it could work out in his favor. But at the same time, Sean could play with his food all night and he could embarrass Henry, just depending on if his spirit is broken after his last performance. Then after that, you got Mario Bautista, who's coming up through the ranks. He destroyed Patchy Mix last night. Then you got Ayman Zahabi. They're not going to make fights like this. Kyler Phillips, Marcus McGee, Montel Jackson, Vinicius. He's not going to be fighting none of those people. Because now those people are actually dangerous, but that's numbers 11 through 15. So the only person for him to fight that's a big name that's going to make money is probably going to be like a Henry Cejudo. But the less dangerous fight will be a Rob Font. Because Rob Font going to want to keep the fight standing up. He got certain submissions, but I don't think he'll be able to submit Sean because he don't have the wrestling to get Sean in that situation in the first place. But outside of that fight, in the co-main event, we had Juliana Pena versus Kayla Harrison. And this was big sister, little sister, school bully, just do whatever they want type of performance. Now, in the first round, Juliana had an up kick, and they did take a point away from her. I don't think that was a warning or anything, and it looked kind of controversial, but they took a point away immediately, but it didn't matter because in the second round, Kayla got a hold of her and was able to submit her. She made it look easy, too. That was the crazy part, and a lot of people were saying that Kayla wouldn't have the cardio for 5 rounds. They were saying she don't finish fights. I'm like, okay, she submitted Holly Holm in her first UFC fight. That's impressive. That shows that she has the ability. But the worry was, can she fight for 5 rounds after dropping from lightweight to bantamweight? Because that's a lot of weight to cut in. Sometimes you could look good. Sometimes you could look good early in the fight, but then those championship rounds come around the corner and your cardio is depleted, and it could spell doom because the more experienced person can take over. And they can actually finish you later on in the fight because you spend a lot of energy earlier in the fight winning. Then the natural exhaustion that's going to come with the fight progressing over time. You combine those two things, and then you get somebody like Juliana Pena who's dangerous on the ground. That could spell disaster. But Kayla didn't even play with her food. She got her out of there. Now, speaking of playing with food, Kelvin Gastelum and Joe Pyfer was interesting because Joe Pyfer dropped Kelvin Gastelum 2 times in the first round. So you can make the argument that was a 10-8 round. My problem is Joe Pyfer didn't do anything for the rest of the fight. So it don't look like they gave him a 10-8 round, which I think maybe they should have, but it looked like they gave it a 10-9. If they're scoring the first round 10-9 for Joe Pyfer, he loses that fight because I believe Kelvin Gastelum won rounds 2 and 3. I believe Kelvin Gastelum won rounds 2 and 3. Easily. It seemed like Joe Pyfer didn't do much of anything in those rounds. Kelvin actually started landing his punches, his combinations. He was moving around a lot, and Joe Pyfer was waiting for the one big punch because now that he knew he had the power, he was trying to land one big bomb, and Kelvin never stayed in one place and allowed him to plant his feet and really sit down on those punches. And then it looked like Kelvin had the speed advantage as the fight went on. I don't think Joe Pyfer was tired. I think it was just the fact that there was a little bit of exhaustion, plus the fact that Kelvin was moving around and Joe Pyfer was hunting, like he was head hunting, right? And trying to look for that one punch. And it just never happened after the first round. So, and not to mention, he landed a big head kick in between dropping Kelvin Gastelum too. That's why I thought it was a 10-8 because he did a lot of damage to Kelvin. Some kind of way Kelvin didn't get finished, but I think they robbed him. I think that was a clear 2 rounds for Kelvin, rounds 2 and 3, and 1 round for Joe Pyfer. Now, a fight that was not controversial at all, and it wasn't close, Mario Bautista and Patchy Mix. Mario was mixing it up 1-2s all night long. Patchy had good combinations, but he just wasn't moving his head, and it looked like he was flat-footed. It seemed like Mario was able to get off on his combinations and move around. Like he could stick and move. He was throwing the feints. He was baiting Patchy, and Patchy was falling for it. He also noticed that Patchy wasn't moving his head. But it seemed like Patchy could land combinations whenever Mario just wasn't moving. So Mario was on the bicycle, right? Like he was moving around, lateral movement, in and out, feints. And Patchy never, there was 1 or 2 times where it was looking like, okay, is he going to get something going? But he never could get the momentum. I don't remember him going for takedowns. If he did, they looked so bad that it didn't look like a takedown attempt. And so there was no takedown attempt, and obviously his best weapon is going to be his jiu-jitsu. It just seemed to me like he got nervous. And we see this quite often. I've seen this all the way from Strikeforce days to now. We saw with Pitbull last month. No matter what these guys' resumes look like before they come to the UFC, when they get in the octagon, they freeze up, and they look like a deer in the headlights. It always happens. It's never going to stop happening. It's rare that a fighter shows up to the UFC and actually delivers in the first fight. Like MVP might have been one of the only times I've ever seen that. And when he did that against Kevin Holland. Speaking of Kevin Holland, he destroyed Vicente Luque in the first fight on the main card. I mean, absolutely dominated him. There was a point early where Vicente tried to get the fight to the ground. I think that was his game plan, was to get the fight to the ground, because he went for a single leg, but Kevin Holland was hitting him with some powerful right hands. Vicente had to let go of that single because he was getting hit hard. It looked like he almost got finished. Like that could have been, it looked like he was hurt actually. But the fight kept going. They were both throwing bombs. I'm not gonna lie. If either of them had landed clean, the fight was gonna be over. That was a lot of power in the octagon, but Kevin Holland was just mixing it up better. I like this Kevin Holland that seems focused now. He can stay focused. That'll be good. But with Kevin Holland, you just never know. He'll be motivated for 2 or 3 fights, and then he'll go in there and fall flat. And that's just kind of been the cycle. So this is about the time where normally he'll fall flat, like in this next fight. So we'll see. And hopefully he can keep the momentum going. But not a good outing for Vicente to get submitted like that. Kevin has those long arms. And now Kevin said that he's not interested in fighting these young guns. So the Ian Garys and the Michael Moraleses and all these young dudes that's come, he's like, nah, I'm good on that. Give me Colby Covington. Big names of older fighters. Like, so maybe Colby Covington. He can't fight Leon Edwards because I think Leon is scheduled to fight Michael Morales later this year. So that's a good fight. That's a decent fight and a winnable fight. If you look at how Kevin's been looking lately and you look at how Colby performed lately, this is a very winnable fight. I didn't think that we would ever be saying nothing like this. Like 2 or 3 years ago, you could have never told me that Colby Covington would be, you could have never told me that Kevin Holland would be a bad matchup for Colby Covington. But that's the fight game. People have ups and downs, and that's where we are with it now. Good night of fights as far as the main card. So as far as good performances, Merab looked amazing. Kayla looked amazing. Joe Pyfer won, and he looked amazing in round 1. But after that, I mean, it wasn't much there. I think Kelvin looked better, actually, in rounds 2 and 3. Mario looked incredible. He knew he had a chip on his shoulder from the Jose Aldo fight, and Kevin Holland looked amazing. Now, Sean O'Malley, where does he go from here? That's tough to say. Maybe Rob Font. Just give him somebody with no wrestling. I wouldn't even play games with that because you don't want to risk it. You need to get him back in the win column. And like I keep saying, the UFC keep trying to force this down our throats like that Sean is this great superstar. I think he's a social media star, and he's just like a regular star, but he's not a mega star like a Conor McGregor, a Ronda Rousey, a Brock Lesnar, or anybody like that. Because I just don't see it translating into the pay-per-view numbers. And now, whatever he did have, that's gone. I mean, people are going to tune in to see what he's going to do next, but give him Rob Font. Like, just play it safe. Because he actually can implement some wrestling in that fight, truth be told. Because Rob Font got out-wrestled by Corey Sandhagen. So, Juliana Pena, I don't know where she goes from here because a lot of people didn't feel like she beat Raquel to win the belt in the first place. A lot of people felt like Raquel got robbed. Kelvin, he's still in Kelvin land, struggling. You never know, is he going to retire? Does he care? Is he focused? And I feel like he actually got robbed here. Mario, he's just going to keep climbing up the ladder. Mario's next fight probably be somebody like, he deserves someone like, I would say give him Figgy. Give him Figgy. Or give him Cheeto. That was actually supposed to be the fight, Cheeto. And then something happened, and Cheeto pulled out, so Patrick Mix got in it. So go ahead and reschedule the Cheeto Vera fight. And if they had fought, Mario's gonna win because Cheeto likes to do a lot of nothing and land a big bomb. And the way Mario was moving last night, it showed that he was ready for Cheeto anyway. For Kevin Holland, go ahead and give him Colby Covington. For Vicente, I don't think Vicente is even in the top 15 no more. Yeah, he is. They probably gonna give him somebody like Carlos Prates so he can get back, so Carlos can get back in the win column, or they may do a rematch with Wonder Boy. I don't think he'll fight Gilbert Burns, or I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. But next week we got Kamaru Usman and Joaquin Buckley. I'm gonna do a video on that one here pretty soon, mostly covering the main event more than anything. There's some names sprinkled on that card, but the main event has all of the attention. So yeah,